Welcome back, everyone, to Soulful Success by Design. I am your host, Kendra, human design guide, mindset strategist, and transformational coach. And I'm excited to be bringing you today the third episode of the Breakthrough Series, Shifting Your Mindset for Success. So as you know, in this series, we've been diving into the mindset shifts, the breakthroughs, and transformations that help you break free from limiting beliefs and step into the life, the business, and the success that you truly desire. And so today's episode is really extra special because I have a former client of mine joining me, someone whose journey I've had the honor and the privilege of witnessing firsthand. So I'm going to introduce you to Katherine. Katherine Johnson is a life coach, a tech consultant, best-selling author, mentor, and STEAM advocate. Her work focuses on helping women in the workplace discover purpose beyond career success so that they can experience greater fulfillment. She hosts workshops, masterclasses, and programs that are designed to really help women step into their next level. Katherine is also deeply passionate about cultivating community and meaningful connection through her retreats and private communities. Through these spaces, she provides safe spaces for women to grow, learn, and to support one another. And so today in our conversation, we're really going to be diving into Katherine's personal journey, how she has moved through her own journey of limiting beliefs, how she's embraced some powerful mindset shifts, and created the life and business that aligns with her deepest purpose. So again, I know this conversation is going to be one that inspires you and encourages you. So we're going to get into it. So Katherine, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here and to share your story with my audience today.
Thank you for having me, Kendra. I'm super excited to be here today.
Good, me too, me too. This is going to be amazing. So I always like to start off. I love to hear about people's stories. I know when I'm listening to other podcasts or watching shows, I love to hear people's backstory about how they got started on their journey. So I would love it if you would just kind of start there and maybe bring us along on your journey of where you were before you began, your intentional work around transforming yourself, your mindset, your patterns, all that. What was Katherine like back then?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was in a successful career. I was working in tech. I had been working in tech for a long time. My tech career started in the military, and then I transitioned to a civilian. And so I had been working in tech for quite a long while. And overall, I was pretty content working in tech up until I reached a point where I was trying to figure out what was really next for myself. So after I graduated from grad school, I decided I was going to pursue this like big industry certification. It's called a CISSP. It's like the golden cert in
Okay.
IT cybersecurity. And so I decided I was going to get that. It seemed like the thing that made the most sense for my career next, right? So I started the process of studying for that. This is a 6-hour exam. So I started the process of studying for that. And I was so caught studying for about 6 months. And it wasn't so much that the material was challenging or that, it was hard. It's just that I couldn't wrap myself around like actually studying and focusing on the certification. So I started to like wonder, like, like what was I doing? Like, was this the path I was supposed to be on? And then one day I just had this realization, like, you know what? I don't want this certification. I really don't want to do this. So that was like a turning point in my career. One incident that really caused me to really reflect and think about like, what am I doing and what's next for myself? I guess the truth was I had other desires and other things I had talked about doing for a long time and other thoughts of what my life could look like, but I was in a successful career. So after that, I started to really get curious about, okay, what's missing here? On top of that, there were some other things going on in my life. I had a relationship that was like ending, and it seemed to have the same patterns of other relationships in my life, ending the same way. So that was causing me like a lot of strife, like wondering like, why are my relationships all ending this way? So there were some things that were going on in parallel, which really was like waking me up to like, okay, what do you want? What's going on? Like, what's at the root of all of these things? And, what are you going to do about it? So with that curiosity, I finally decided that, okay, I'm not going to get this certification, but there is something that I've always been curious about and something I've always wanted to do actually, and that was serving others and helping others. Had always talked about writing a book. I had always talked about mentoring young girls, I had always talked about all these things, but I hadn't really taken any true action towards these things. And I was like, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna pursue what it would mean to be a life coach, someone who could really serve and support others on a deeper level. And that got me super excited. Like it was the first time I felt myself really excited about something outside of my career. So with that, I enrolled in this life coach training program, and it just blew my mind, opened my eyes to this world that was, far beyond what I ever imagined. I thought it was going to be just about me learning how to become a life coach, but it was really a deep dive into myself. And through
Mhm.
this program, I gained so much awareness about myself, so much clarity, and it just started me on the path of really peeling back the layers about who I am, what I wanted, and what was next for me, what was next in my life. So that led to me starting a business, something I had never thought about. I never thought about becoming an entrepreneur or starting a business, but I
Oh,
saw
really?
someone that inspired me, who had humble beginnings, who looked like me, who had a beautiful story, and she inspired me to believe that it was something that I could have as well. So I started my business and things just kind of took off from there. But that was the start of me really getting curious about what I wanted in my life, what was next. It was the frustration of being in a career that I enjoyed tech. I always enjoyed tech. It's always been my thing. But I wanted more. It was something that was missing. I was in a space of really feeling like, okay, what's next? What's missing? Like, why am I not just satisfied with my career? So that's what really started me in the journey. And then when I say parallel things like in relationships, like I found myself like when I was in the military, I traveled quite a bit. And I had always been saying that I wanted to travel again. But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm waiting for somebody to go with me because, I don't want to travel alone. Like, I don't want to like, who does that? Who goes and travels by themselves? So in 2017, my best friend and I were planning a birthday trip for myself. And, we have been planning and talk about it for a while now. And then, she told me that she couldn't make it. And I understood because she was a single parent, raising two kids and things come up, life happens. But I was like, well, does that mean I'm not going to go? And literally, I decided that I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to do anything for my birthday because there was no one to go with me. But that was a turning point as well because I decided, look, you know what? You really have to start living your life and doing the things that you want to do, even if that means stepping out and doing that by yourself.
Mm.
So that was another thing that was going on around the same time, right before I embarked on this journey of really, seeing what where these feelings were coming from and why I was feeling this way and really wanting to get curious about what was next for myself.
Mm. Okay. There's so many nuggets in there. So I'm going to pull just a few pieces out that I want everyone to focus on. Number one, curiosity. You use that word curiosity. And for those of you that are listening, I feel like this is the thing that I want you to hook into for a moment. If you're finding yourself in this place where something doesn't feel right, that curiosity, just stepping into that mindset of curiosity and going, I wonder what this is about, or I wonder why, like you were talking about the parallels between, things happening in your life and your relationships and your career, those patterns and getting curious about them. And I think that's such a healthy way of engaging with ourselves because you could have went the other way of judging yourself, of like, why am I not where I need to be at yet? Why is this happening here? But instead it was a why from a mindset of curiosity. Well, this is interesting. I'm noticing some parallels. What could this mean? Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I have to admit, now there was that logical side of me,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about this from you, my human design, my nature as a generator, that
Mhm.
wanted to understand because like this doesn't make sense. You have this successful career, you have a good job, you're like things are good. Like
Yeah.
what's wrong? Like why are you not
Yes.
happy? Why are you not satisfied? There was that logical part of my brain that was like, spinning like, oh, this doesn't make sense. You're really gonna like think about starting something new and doing something different. Like who does that?
Right. But I think that's the conditioned response within us, because I experienced something similar when I moved out of corporate into entrepreneurship. There was that voice internally and even externally. Why would you, leave a great, like I didn't leave, they let me go, but I decided to leave the industry. But it's like, why would you leave the industry? Like you're getting paid well. You
Mhm.
have great health care, like you have something that's stable. You can go find another position somewhere else. Why would you go out here and do the thing that seems so irrational? you know?
Mhm.
And I think we kind of fall, if we're not careful, we can fall into that trap of going, yeah, you're right. and going down that same path that others feel like we should go down, or that we're sometimes conditioned to believe we should go down. And then your desires aren't being met. And so you as a generator, your emotional theme when you're out of alignment is frustration. So you would just continue down that road of frustration, just frustrated about this and frustrated about that, where what you were really seeking is like satisfaction from following your own heart and your own desires. And there's something to be said about moving forward and stepping into trust and faith, even when it doesn't make logical sense. I mean, that's a lesson in and of itself,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you had to have some of that to do what you did.
Indeed.
Yeah, love that. All right, so the other piece that I wanted to tap into real quick while you were talking is when you were talking about traveling, you knew that you wanted to travel. Your best friend was going to go with you. At the last minute, she had to pull out for what, because, kids and all that. How many of us, and I'm asking you listeners as we're moving through this conversation, how many of you have not done something because you thought to yourself, how am I going to do this by myself? Nobody travels by themselves. Nobody goes to dinner by themselves. Nobody goes to the movies by themselves. Like, how many times have you created this rule in your head that has told you you couldn't do something that your heart's telling you to do because no one else around you is doing it, or no one is coming along on the path with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a really big lesson. And I think it's one, again, where you had a conversation with yourself, Katherine, probably like internally, like, okay, am I really not going to do something for my birthday because my friend can't go?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to move through any, like, what were the doubts that came up besides the, are you really going to do this by yourself? No one does this by themselves. Like, was there any fear that came up? Was there any, fear, I would think, that came up in doing out and going out on your own and traveling and doing what you wanted to do in that sense?
Absolutely. I'm naturally an introvert, I'm pretty quiet, So there was that fear, like I'm traveling by myself, like, is anyone going to talk to me? Like, am I going to meet anyone? Like that whole thing. So there was definitely that. And then I had traveled a lot before in the military, but I had the safety of the military when I traveled. That protection of knowing that I'm traveling to a country, in my uniform as a military person, and there's a certain amount of protection that comes with that. But now I'm stepping out on my own, traveling different places, and so there's the fear of all the other possibilities and things you have to worry about traveling solo. But I think those were some of the fears that came up, like I'm an introvert. Am I going to meet anyone? Like, who am I going to talk to? Am I going to feel alone? How's that going to work? How's that going to look? And then just thinking about like how it would feel like from a safety point of view.
Right. Yes. So how would you say if you can remember, like how you walked yourself through that? Was it more of like an internal process of you just deciding, okay, I know I'm feeling this way. What if this, what if that, but I'm going to do it anyway? Or was there like a conscious process you took yourself through? Or was it just like an internal decision?
It was a quick decision. So there was
Ah,
this
yeah.
event that I had been following for a while, and I kept getting emails about it. It was located in Florida, and I was like, this looks interesting. This sounds like something that'd be fun. And I just, kept like, oh no, all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. But I kept getting emails about it, kept hearing about it, and then one day, on a whim, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. And in that moment, I bought a ticket. So now I got a ticket to this event that's in Florida, and I'm going by myself, and I got to do all the things, get my ticket, make reservations at a hotel. And so I was going, like, I wasn't going to waste the money. And I was really interested in this event, like what I could learn, who I could meet, and how this could help me decide what was next for my life and figure out the path that I wanted to take next. So it was a very quick decision that I made. And once I made the decision, it was happening. So,
Yeah.
then I could reckon with all of the other things, like, it'll be fine. Everything's going to work out. How you came about this event, how you came about this person was divine. You're supposed to be there. There's a reason why you're interested in this event. Taking this step of faith and doing this thing it's gonna be great. So then I, turned it into like, okay, it's happening now. So let's let's face it.
Exactly. It's like you're on the ride and you can't say, oh, can I get off the ride now? It's like, no, you got to keep moving with it.
Right.
I really love that, because the lesson there too is just take action and trusting that like the next steps will unfold. You'll figure it out along the way. And making that decision. That reminds me when I was training for the half marathon, I made a training plan and all that, but my husband said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and buy the tickets now. Like the race was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in the future. And he's like, no, we're going to buy them now. We're going to make the investment. We're going to buy them now. And there's something about taking that concrete step of putting your money into the thing that you know that you want to work towards that shifts your energy. Because had you not bought the ticket, you might have still been sitting there like, oh, I'm not sure, and, kind of staying in that wavering space.
Yep.
And so the golden nugget here that I want everyone to pull out of this is, what are you sitting on that you know you want to take action on, but you haven't taken action on yet? Know that if you would just take that step and say, okay, I'm going to buy that ticket. I'm going to go to this event, or I'm going to work with this coach, whatever that is, that is when the change begins to unfold. So good.
Yeah, that's when the magic starts to happen. Like you said, everything starts to unfold organically, divinely. Once you take that, you'll be surprised by this, all the things that just seem to fall into place from that one decision.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about, so you went to this event, you're starting this new path for yourself. You were exposed to the possibility of, oh, I could actually have my own business, right? So you had this exposure, you're learning from someone who's doing this. Once you started doing that, I mean, this is a whole different experience than being in the military. Like this, I mean, you went from one end of the spectrum like to the other, right? As far as like structure and the rules and everything. So when you started that journey, Katherine, like what came up for you then? Because you were exposing yourself to something new. Were there new challenges that came up for you as it pertained to your self-concept or your beliefs about things that you noticed pop up that you had to start working through to keep moving forward with growing your business and getting it out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the stuff came up. Let's just say that. We've talked about this before, how when you go into business, everyone thinks that it's just about business strategy and learning how to have a successful business and all these things. And you quickly learn that it's about so much more than that. And for me, someone told me like, it's more about you than anything. And I was like, oh, I could just learn business strategy and I'll be fine. Like I'm good at learning new things. But all the stuff came up that caused me to really look at myself more deeply. I think in the beginning, some of the initial things that came up, it's just fear of being seen, really putting myself out there in a new way, being visible. That was one of the big things that came up. And then the belief of like, if I can truly do this, like, is this something that I truly believe that I can do? That was another belief that came up. But the fear of being seen was a big one in the beginning. I was working with the coach and I was being asked to put myself out there and do new and different things. And I was just like, I don't know about this. Like, this is a lot. But I had to get to the root of that. What was underneath that? Like, what was causing me to feel like I didn't want to be seen? I didn't want people to know me at a deeper level. I didn't want to put myself out there and do these things that would allow my business to grow and people to get to know me and learn who I am, what I'm about, and what I do. That was some of the initial resistance that came up along the way. And it's so funny because I call her my accountability partner, but she's a friend. I met her around this time and she had had her business for a while. And she's like, okay, I'm going to help you get over your camera shyness. And so we set up some calls and she had all this script and stuff for me to do. It was a disaster. I was totally not feeling it. And I was not in the right mindset to do it. And so we ended that. And over time, as I began to really peel back the layers of who I was, what I was about, increasing my confidence by taking action and doing the things that seemed scary at the time, I started to get more comfortable with, being seen and being visible. And so it was just a process of like taking the baby steps, putting myself out there and learning like what was at the core and working on those things so that I can continue to show up.
Yes. Yes. So again, you had to go back to that curiosity, right? Of, okay, this is interesting. Why is it showing up? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, this is one mindset barrier that we come up against is, I don't want people to see me. Like we want to help people. We were very clear on, we want to help people and how we want to help people. But there's something about putting yourself out there, your work, your ideas, and how you want to help someone. Because I think that and you let me know if you notice this too. Like I noticed on my journey, the fear of being seen it wasn't necessarily about like I don't want people to see me. It was more so of what will people say, right? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to, growing up, I got teased for the way that I speak. People
Mm.
tease me all the time. Why do you just speak so proper? Like, who talks like that? You sound like a valley girl. Like, I used to get that all the time. And so, that fear of like, what if people criticize me and judge me for the way that I speak? Or what if I put an idea out there and someone disagrees with me? Like, what do I do then? Did any of that come up for you like as an underlying fear around like being visible?
Some of that, yes. But I think
Okay.
it was a little bit more of the opposite, what you mentioned first. So being in the military, there's this whole thing around, I don't have to talk about who I am. I don't have to talk about my job and what I do in the military. And that was a protection thing. It was kind of cool to me to be able to tell people like, yeah, I have this, top secret job in the military. Can't really tell you what I do. And it's this blanket of like confidentiality around me and who I am and what I did. And I like that a lot. Coming from a person who like reveled in being like, a little bit secretive and having a very distinction between private life and personal life,
Oh
um,
yeah.
having that in the military and even in my career, now stepping into entrepreneurship where it's like, these parts of me are now merged, I don't want to have them separate anymore. So how do I show up and show the private parts of me and the personal parts of me in a way that's a full reflection of me without hiding different parts that I feel like, people wouldn't have never seen from me before. Like I didn't have any social media pages, I wasn't on social media or anything like that intentionally. Being in the military, I didn't want the hassle of what it could mean having a personal profile online. So that was part of it. And then I think it was a vanity part of it as well. Like, being concerned about people saying things about like how you look or how you present, how you speak, like you mentioned. That was some of it as well. But I think for me, like I reveled in really being private,
Yeah.
and keeping parts of myself to my inner circle and not opening that up and exposing that to the entire world.
Yes. Yes. I get that. I love what you said to how like you had to merge, like when you started your business, it wasn't just about here's your business and just talking about that because it is your business and not you not working for a company or on a military mission. Like this is your thing that brings it together. And I think that's why a lot of the internal mental barriers come up when we start our own business because it's different when you're working for a company, for example, and you're promoting their stuff or you're talking about your position there or because it's not really necessarily about you. It's like, oh, I'm here representing this company or I'm
Mm-hmm.
representing, the Air Force or the Army or whatever. When it comes to starting your business, it's all you, babe. It's like everyone's looking at you like, okay, so what do you got to say? Who's this person? And that does bring up a lot of stuff. And I think that it's easy to fall into that trap. Like you mentioned, okay, well, I can just learn business. Just give me the strategy. Just give me the steps. And I think we've all done that. Just tell me the steps to take and I'll do it, not realizing that you're literally about to get a PhD in yourself and who you
Yeah.
are.
Yes, it's that identity piece. And to even make it a little bit more like for me, it was a little bit more complex than that because like when we talk about merging personal and private, like throughout my military career, like I talk about this in my chapter, Awareness Put Me On. I talk about my name and coming into myself in my name because in the military, like everyone called me Johnson. No one calls you by your first name. So I had
Yeah.
this whole identity around Johnson. Growing up, my family called me Nikki, and they still do to this day, call me Nikki. It's a childhood nickname, and then my friends who I had met like during the military and after the military, they all called me Nicole. No one really called me Catherine. It's my first name, my formal name, but even as a child, no one really called me Catherine. So when I decided to start my business and I was thinking about what I wanted my business name to be and how I wanted to show up, I decided that, in merging the personal and private parts of myself, I was now just going to be Catherine. I was going to be Catherine. I was going to embrace what that meant. All the different parts of me, it's Catherine, and so that was another big part of it, like identity. And that was really me getting to know Catherine, who she was and what she was all about, and all these different parts of me now become, Catherine.
Yeah. I love that. I did not even, I remember you've talked to me about that in, in past conversations, but now that you're bringing that up, I'm like, yes, that it is an identity piece. And I think that that is something great too for you all that are listening to tap into. Maybe your identity journey is not like Catherine's as it pertains to like your name and things like that. But maybe your identity, maybe if you're moving from, like for me, my identity was moving from this corporate executive to a businesswoman, right? Like that's kind of a leap of seeing myself as a businesswoman and not as, an employee for a company. And I think that's a big jump too to take when you're moving from this employee mindset, or for you, like you're moving from this like, you know, military soldier mindset, moving into business person mindset. Like they're two different worlds. And so I think that many entrepreneurs kind of go through this identity crisis. Who am I? And is it safe for me to bring this part of me into my business? And so that's the work. And I really do believe, and I came to know this on my own journey and as I continue to grow my business, that having your own business is two-sided. It's not just about the strategy and the planning and all that. That's part of it. But so many people, I feel like, miss the personal work that needs to happen that's also going to enable you to grow the business.
Mhm.
Because yes, your business is an extension of you, but the way that I look at it too is you're coming into relationship with this business that is not it's not a tangible thing, but it's like you as the individual have to bring life to this business, and be able to put the vision out there, be able to communicate the vision. But then if we're struggling with ourselves internally of how people are going to see us and what is my identity and what is this, that shows up in the business.
Mhm.
Right. And then when it's portrayed and put out there, folks are kind of confused. And then we're like, but why am I not getting clients? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't it happening? And we think that it's a strategy thing, or we think that there's a problem with us. And it's not that. I think it's just that we get to do a little bit more deep dive into who we are and getting to know ourselves on a, in a different way and in a different environment,
Mhm. Yep.
So, all right. So you've done a lot of like growing and evolving, over the years. So if we were to look at, Catherine today, like what does it look like for you to move through challenges today as opposed to how you used to move through them? Like, what does it look like for you today to move through challenges when things come up?
Yeah, let me think about this. Well, through our work together, you've taught me a lot of different techniques that have
Mm,
been extremely supportive, habits, techniques that support me in really shifting energy. And for me, that's been the biggest, I say the most effective part of learning how to shift my energy in a way that supports me for the work that I'm going to do. I would say in the past, I would get stuck and I would just allow myself to marinate in that. Like I'm frustrated about something, whether I'm frustrated about the business, I'm not seeing the results I want to see, or if I'm not marinating in it, it's like I know what to do, I know what I could do, but I'm choosing not to do that. Maybe because there's some resistance or there's some other fears and things that need to be addressed, right? I'm choosing not to do those things. So in the past, I think I would just marinate in it for quite a bit. Knowing things I could do to support myself, even as a coach, having practices and things like that, but still allow myself to marinate in, not really giving myself space all the time to really feel those heavy emotions, the heavy emotions that come up, knowing they're there, but not giving myself space to really truly feel them. And you taught me a lot about that, like how to really connect with my body and allow myself that get in that uneasy space of really sitting with it and feeling what's coming up, because that's what's required in order to work through it and to move through it. So I think those are some of the things that I would do in the past when, things came up, instead of like working through them. And then like I learned a lot from you about like what frustration even means, and how to use that as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to take a pause, to pivot, and now I can give myself that space to do that without beating myself up, because in the past I would beat myself up. Oh, you're procrastinating, you're being lazy, you're not doing enough, like why aren't you doing all these things? Now I have a deeper understanding of what it means when these things show up. I can sit with it, tap into it, and then I can use the techniques and tools that you showed me to really shift it and move through it. So now it's like, I'm doing my daily practices, and it varies day by day. Whatever I feel like is needed in that day, whether it's the EFT that you taught me, the anchoring technique, some of the visualizations. I've always been into journaling and writing because it truly is a way for me to, as a person, I think you said I have an open head center. So it truly is a way for me to like get all these thoughts and things out of my head, like just get it out on paper and get it out of me and process. It's my way to process things that are coming up for me. So journaling has always been a big thing for me. Meditation, which I really tapped into more heavily since you and I have been working together. Meditation. So now I have these practices and tools that really support me, and I can make a decision when things come up and not allow myself to really stay stuck and marinate in it when it doesn't feel good, when it's not supportive of me getting to where I want to be, or not supportive of me feeling how I want to feel. I have these things that I can do and tap into.
That is so beautiful. And I think that as I'm listening to you share, what I'm hearing you say too is that you've learned how to tap into your own inner resources and your own power, right? Because I do believe that in all of us, and I work primarily with women, so inside of all women, we have this space inside of us that is so powerful. It's just a matter of learning how to access that part of ourselves. And I want to point something out here because it isn't easy sitting with the discomfort. It is not easy sitting with the frustration. It's not easy sitting with the disappointment or the fear or sitting in that space of, okay, I know I need to go do X, Y, and Z, but then I'm going to go distract myself with this over here. I'm going to go do this over here. And that feels uncomfortable. And I think the biggest thing, I hear this in, I love to exercise and lift weights and yoga and run, all the good things. And I'll sometimes hear exercise instructors say, like, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're lifting weights, go ahead and get comfortable with the fact that your legs are going to burn and you need to keep moving. But it's the same thing in this transformational work that we do as coaches ourselves and that we lead our clients through. It is becoming okay with being uncomfortable and being able to expand your capacity to sit in the discomfort, let it process, get curious about it, and then make the decision to say, okay, and now I'm going to go move, right? I heard someone say this in a class I was taking, and I really love this. It's giving yourself the space, like you were saying, to sit with what's uncomfortable, to be with the feelings, to be with the emotions, having the tools and techniques to help move the energy, and then asking yourself the question, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Now what? Because I think too many times, as women, we can really sit and marinate in our own stuff. And like we're frustrated and we're irritated. And then that manifests itself into results that show up that we don't like, relationships that aren't fulfilling, misaligned clients. And it really is an internal process. And so I think for those of you that are listening, the goal here and what really helps you step into your power is understanding and equipping yourself with the tools, the support, whatever you need to help you access the power that's already within you.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, yeah, I really love that. So Katherine, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about the woman who may be listening to this right now. And I know I've been in this space where you're in the thick of it, right? Things aren't working right. Maybe the relationship's not working right. You're in a career that's not fulfilling. Like your life just feels kind of like, meh, like this is not where I want to be. And sometimes it can be hard to hear someone say, oh, you just gotta go do this, go do this, go do that. And then you're back in your mind, you're like, yeah, but you don't understand, right? I've got this going on, or I have the kids, or I've got this or that. I'd love to know, like, if she were sitting here with us today and she wants to move forward, but she's like, oh, I don't think I can do this because you don't know where I'm coming from. Like, what would you say to her? How could we help her like move out of that box and kind of like see what's possible?
Mm. Hmm. I think some of the first questions I would ask her is, what does she want? What
Yeah.
does she truly want? What does she truly desire? Um, and then I would want her to really connect back to herself. I would want to ask her like, okay, what do you actually like? You know, what are some things that bring you joy? What are some things you do for fun to kind of get her in this, open up her to the space of like herself and who she is and what she enjoys, because I think once we start thinking about that, it changes your energy. Like it
Yeah.
changes your energy. And once she can start thinking about, you know, some of those bigger dreams of without any like, you know, having any like just thinking about it. Like we're not saying it has to happen. We're not saying that you got to have a way to make it happen right now. Get into a space where you can even just think about it, like those deeper desires, those deeper things that you may want and don't talk about, may not tell anyone about, some of the things that may scare you. I would want to get her thinking about those things and thinking about the other side of it, the fun part of it, what lights her up. And then I would challenge her to start by doing something different. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes we have to disrupt the normalcy in our life. We have to disrupt like the, you know, our way of just doing the things that we do. We have our schedules, we have all the things we have to do, and we do those things. But we have sometimes we have to disrupt it when we want something new. We have to do something that's gonna create some space for that to actually come to fruition. So I would challenge her to do something like, you know, just do something different out of the norm,
Mm.
to kind of get her in that space of possibility and get her in the space of thinking what her life could be like. That's what I would start with.
Oh, I love that so much because it's breaking the pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a small thing, right,
Mm-hmm.
that you do that just breaks the pattern. Uh, and it could be as simple as, if you've ever dreamed of, taking yourself on a solo date or on a, solo weekend by yourself, or if you've ever dreamed of staying in a particular hotel or going to a particular event, it's like, go do that. Go book the room. Go book the room. Go to the event that you want to go to. If you've been, and it can even, I'm going to bring it even down even further. Let's say when you're driving to work one day, just go a different way. Just say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go this way instead. And just something that kind of gets you out of the box, right? Of that pattern. That is so good. And it's funny, I love that you brought this up because I remember working with a client several years ago. And that was a question I asked her. Like, I think we were in probably session like 2 or 3. And I said, okay, all right, we've got to pause for a second. I want to know what it is that you really want. And so we got into this conversation and she messaged me later and she said, Kendra, I'm freaking out because I just realized that I had stopped allowing myself to dream of the life that I really wanted because I'd gotten so sucked into showing up the way I'm supposed to in my career and, being a mom and, being a spouse. And she's like, I can't believe I actually forgot about the things that light me up and make me excited. And so you're right. It's just even getting yourself thinking about it and stepping into that imagination of it that just shifts your energy. And when your energy shifts, watch out because that's when things start showing up and that's when the magic happens. Like you said earlier, right? That's when the magic happens.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened to me. Like, you know, like doing that different thing of going to a retreat by myself.
Right.
It was different. There were other things that when I like thought about when I started to do the same work, the same process, you know how we always have things that we like to do for fun, but when we look at it, it's like, it's been so many years since I've done that. Like, why haven't I played basketball? Why haven't I been swimming? Like, these are things that I truly love to do. Like, why haven't I even created a little bit of space to do some of the things that I actually love doing? So even like for me, like doing those things and starting to do some of those things, it just created just this whole new sense of excitement and fun does something wonderful. So yeah, I had to do the same things, like really reconnect with those things because like I said, I hadn't been doing those things in so long, even writing. When I started on this journey, I realized that outside of journaling, I hadn't been writing. I hadn't been writing and I love writing, but it was something that I put to the back burner, you know, as I was going through grad school, you know, having to read, you know, school books,
Yeah.
things like that. I put it to the back burner as something that, okay, when I get to it, if I get to, but I love reading romance novels for fun. I hadn't read a romance novel in many years. Like, so as I started to think about, I was like, man, like these are things that I like to do. And it opened up a whole new world for me, just really reconnecting with some of those things that I actually like to do, things I love to do, and things that brought me joy.
Yes, yes, yes. That reminds me, we've been riding bikes a lot as a family. And I tell you, I told my husband, I'm like, I feel like a little girl. Like, because we just ride the bikes. You know how you used to go on the hill and you would like put your feet out. So we're doing that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this feels so good. And we, it may take an hour or two out of our day on the weekend to go do that, but it feels so good. And even reading books that aren't personal development or business related, but books that are like series about, a family that's got this dark secret and, books like that. So listeners, as you are listening to this, ladies, like I'm going to challenge you to just sit down after this and write down like 3 to 5 things that you used to love doing that seem so small. And oh, I want you to write them down. I want you to choose one and I want you to do it. Go do that. Go do that thing. Um, Dancing, if you enjoy dancing, dance.
YouTube.
YouTube, exactly. Yes. Um, Yes, I've been learning. It's funny. We went to a Mardi Gras ball over the weekend, and they were doing all these like line dances to these different songs. And there's one song by Tamia that they were doing this line dance to. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to know how to do this. So I've been at home practicing it. And my husband's like, Kendra, really? I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be ready for the next ball we go to so I can do this dance.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Okay, Catherine. So we are going to wrap this up. Obviously, we know how we like to talk. Like you and I think could really go much longer in this, but what I want to wrap this up is with I think you've already, I obviously like to do these episodes, and the intention is that people can walk away with like an actionable things they can do. And what you just said just a moment ago, right? Just getting yourself thinking about what used to light you up and like doing that thing. I think those are really good actionable steps. That for those that are listening, go back and listen to what Katherine said, those steps, write them down, do that. So before we wrap up, this conversation's been so good and so powerful. And so for those that are listening to this who want to connect with you, Katherine, who want to maybe stay up to date whenever you do another workshop or a retreat or whatever, or be a part of your community, where can people find you?
Well, I've been most active on LinkedIn these days. So LinkedIn, everything is Katherine N. Johnson. So LinkedIn is like, that's my place. But the place where you can really get all the goods is to be on my email list. You can go to my website and sign up for my email list. I send out newsletters. I send out like beautiful reflections to help you really step into what's next for your life. And I send out information about my programs, my Next Level You program designed to help you move forward with confidence, clarity, and courage and step into the life that you truly desire. So I would say LinkedIn and my email list is probably the best places. I haven't posted on IG in a while, so I am on IG as well, though, as Katherine N. Johnson, but LinkedIn and my email list is the best place.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. So all of those links and places that Katherine just mentioned will be in the show notes. Before we wrap up, I do want to remind you all that Break Through Your Limits is officially open for enrollment at the time that you will hear this. So if you're ready to kind of do the work that we've been talking about here, breaking free from the limiting beliefs that have been holding you back and really step into more confidence, stepping into a deeper level of clarity within yourself and who you are, and getting clear on what your success looks like, then this is your opportunity to do that deep work that creates the lasting transformation. So this is the kind of work we do inside of Break Through Your Limits, shifting your mindset, rewiring subconscious patterns, and helping you fully align with the success you desire. So you can find all the details of this in the show notes. If you have any questions, you want to know where you can reach me out on Instagram or in the links of the show notes. So thank you all so much for being here, for tuning in. I really do know that you've taken away some really great nuggets and lessons and insights from this conversation. And I will see you again on the next episode of the Soulful Success by Design podcast.